Okay. And Miss Natalie, we have you going first this morning. Miss Natalie was introduced to me by Miss Linda, my colleague, and we're very excited to have her on this morning to go ahead and present. So that I don't make us late, Natalie, I will let you go ahead and start sharing your screen if you have a PowerPoint to share, and you can take it away.
Good morning, everyone. The important lesson of today is pay attention to time zones. I am in Ohio and I was all ready to go at 10 o'clock my time and thought that I had made a mistake. And I did, just not that mistake. So this is the first time I've done this presentation on Zoom. So please bear with me. I have some different videos I want to briefly show, and I'm really hoping that works out. So let me start by discussing the program that we started. And that is not what I want you to see yet. Okay, tell me, can you see a screen with my notes, or can you just see the PowerPoint?
Just the PowerPoint. We have check your engine.
Okay, and I have 15 minutes, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, let's get rolling. So during the pandemic, I work at the Alcohol, Drug, Mental Health Board in Tuscarawas County and Carroll County, Ohio. And the way that Ohio handles behavioral health is that each county is connected to a mental health board that focuses on developing services related to addiction and mental health. And so during the pandemic, we started to get some information about farmer mental health and farmer suicide. And so I reached out to our local farm bureau, which touches Tusk, Carroll, Harrison, Jefferson, and that is it, and pull together the Adams board directors from those counties and a small group of Farm Bureau leadership. And we began to talk about what is really happening and what can we do to impact this. And one of the reasons this is so important, and let me see if I can pull up, this is where the technology may get me. One of the reasons this is so important, okay, please let me know if you can see TikTok on your screen.
No, you're good.
Let's try new share.
What is that? Some farmer said he's coming up here.
Yes, I can see. It says, "Why are we doing this?" I thought you were saying you had your TikTok up. There you go.
Oh shit, farmer.
Did anyone get that?
No.
Okay, so we're going to go back out of that. Tell me if you can see the "Why are we doing this" screen. Somebody give me a thumbs up.
No, I still see TikTok.
Okay, all right, well then we're going to do this again.
What is that? Some farmer said he was coming up here. Did he say his wife was making him come up here? This kid did not. Did sound a little short of breath there. Oh shit, farmer.
Okay. So that's no secret to any of you that either work with farmers or can you see my "Why are we doing this" screen?
Yes.
Okay. To any of you that work with farmers or are connected to farmers, it takes almost an act of God to get them to identify a need for medical help, let alone mental health help. So we know whenever a farmer is deciding to reach out for services that it's pretty significant. Okay. We also know that a CDC study in 2016 found that individuals in the agriculture occupation have a suicide rate double that of the general population. It is the most deadly occupation across the country. And we know that there has been some improvement, that farmers were more comfortable discussing mental health, stress, stigma in 2019 than they had been previously. We also know that rural and Appalachian areas, including Ohio and other parts of the country, have a higher suicide rate, partly because of the access to weapons and guns. And when an individual attempts suicide by a firearm, that is not something that they often come back from. When we have people that are overdosing on substances, a lot of times we can turn that around and save lives. But the firearm use is the highest suicide rate in our rural communities. So the group that formed really thought about, how do we reach out to the farmers in something that's palatable? And we came up with a program called Check Your Engine, because we know that discussing mental health and depression with farmers is probably not the best way to get their attention. Check Your Engine has been a very effective way for us to kind of even have them meander over to some of our booths, not knowing what we're going to be discussing with them. The idea of this is farmers pay so much attention to their farm equipment and the functioning of it, but the most important piece of equipment on the farm is the farmer. We wanted to roll this out to a group of farmers and farm family members to see if this was going to have any traction. What feedback did they have? And so we developed a group of advisory members in our farm bureau, in our local farm bureaus, and we rolled this out to them, and they gave us some good feedback. But fundamentally, things that they said that were really sticking with us was how they were shifting their view of mental health and stigma. We heard them say things like, it's okay to admit there's a problem. It's a good thing to get help. We have to be open enough to see that there are things happening to our neighbor. We're an outsider, but we're also a neighbor, and we have to be willing to help. We are a loyal community. And that loyalty and that shift from kind of mind your own business to we need to pay attention and help our neighbors really came through over and over. In the interest of time, I'm going to give you a brief summary of this video and not necessarily show you the video, but I pulled this in because I think it's a beautiful example of farm relationships. And so in the video, very briefly, they are doing work on a new house, and they're working on a tractor out in the yard, and the tractor breaks down. And the farmers and the friends are kind of getting down and looking at what's going wrong with the tractor, and there's fluid leaking. And because it's a new build, they don't have any tools there. So they get in the car and they go down the street to the buddy's house and they grab some tools and they come back. And so after we show the video, I ask the group, what do you see? What did you hear? And then what would be your next steps? And so the things that are significant is everyone's kind of diving in and looking at what is wrong with the tractor. And they're talking about the fluid that they can see leaking, and they're talking about what that might be. And so what you hear is kind of the engine turning, and it's struggling a little bit, and that's giving them some direction into steps that they may take. And then again, what are the next steps? He's going to get tools. He doesn't know what tools he's going to need. So he's grabbing a handful of different tools from his buddy down the street. And we talk about that as, what is the level of concern? There's not a fire, there's not an engine explosion. So maybe on that spectrum of concern, it's not an incredibly high level concern, but it is an engine issue. And so we're kind of basing what is our level of concern based on the problem that we're seeing with this tractor. And we talk about that as similar to mental health. Just as we're doing it with a tractor for a colleague, for a neighbor, for a family member, we need to do that related to their level of farm stress as well. So what are they seeing when they're interacting with another farmer? What are they hearing regarding their language? And then helping them decide what those next steps are, because that is by far the most uncomfortable move for a farmer. For most of our county, for most of our community, is taking that next step whenever a concern comes up. So some of the things that we talk about are the farmer may appear more unkempt or tired. So they're working in the farm. We know that they're going to be a little bit, they're going to have some residual effect from working on the farm on their clothes. But are they looking a little bit more unkempt than you've typically seen them? Are they appearing more tired, or are they yawning more? Are they just a little bit more lethargic? One of the other things that we've noticed frequently is that the farm building, the animals begin to look disheveled. They may not be kept up with the same attention that they had been kept up with the past. They may stop attending services. They may stop attending gatherings, a monthly breakfast, something in the evening that they were regularly attending. Again, livestock or pets may not be cared for. Their temper may be shorter. Things that used to roll off their back are now met with an aggressive, angry response. And you're thinking, that's not like him or her. Perhaps they're not making eye contact with when they're talking. We also look for physical effects. We know that stress and being overwhelmed can have a lot of impact on our physical health. So while they may not say, I'm depressed, I'm stressed, I'm struggling, perhaps they're having a lot more flus or colds, or they just can't seem to shake a health issue, aches and pains. We also know that fatigue can be closely tied to mental health, anxiety, depression. And so there may be more farm accidents because the individual is more fatigued or they've lost that ability to concentrate. We're listening to what they say, just like we would with the sound of an engine. Are they saying things that are hopeless about the future? We know that farms passing down from generation to generation is a very important legacy component in farms. Are they having concerns about whether or not it's being passed to the next generation? Is there a lot of worry being discussed? Again, the irritability, the annoyance, excessive guilt, sadness. Did they used to have a lot of inflection in their voice, up and down, but now the tone is flat with minimal inflection? Again, we're really worried about that hopelessness or that lack of confidence, and a lot of times it comes out as seeing themselves as a failure. We also know that family members who are living with the farmers may begin to express concerns that the others in the community may not see as readily. So some of the things that we want to consider, because life is tough and life has bumps, and it's natural to feel depressed or anxious or stressed about some of the bumps. But we want to look at, has it gone on for more than 2 weeks? That's really the benchmark that we begin to look at when we're deciding, is this an issue that we may need to impact, or is this just reacting to some of life's stressors? So you want to look at that. Has it been consistent for a minimum of 2 weeks and longer? And is it different from their typical behavior? Some people are irritable, and some people are just, constantly tired or constantly have a glasses half empty outlook. If that's who they typically are, that may not indicate as much of a warning. And is it impacting their daily lives? That's another warning sign that things are a little more significant than maybe just a reaction to a daily stressor. And as I've gotten to know the farming community and working with the farmers, the coping skill that I hear most often is just rub some dirt on it. The farming community is very much a pick yourself up by your bootstraps, rub some dirt on it, put your big boy pants on group. And while I understand that, what happens when you put dirt into an engine, and again, we're talking about the farmer as the engine and their mental health as the engine. When you put dirt in an engine, it explodes, it blows up. Everything around the engine is blown apart if that is the coping skill that you're choosing to use by putting dirt in the engine. So now that we've kind of given you a summary of some of the things that you want to look for and some of the things that you're listening for, what do? When you ask someone, how are you? Their typical answer is, I'm good, I'm fine. And sometimes it takes that extra question. No, really, how are you? I really care about how you're doing. I really want to know how you're doing. It can be a statement of, seems like something's bothering you lately. You don't seem like yourself lately. For the sales community, the vets that are going to the homes, we talk about, you've missed your last 3 appointments. That's not like you. And just kind of laying that in front of them and seeing what they do with that. It's hard for me to understand what's happening with you, but I can tell it's really bothering you. What can I do to help? You seem kind of down. How long have you been feeling like this? We're going to figure this out. I'm going to reach in. I'm going to help you. I'm going to do what I can. Now, again, I know I have done this training many times in front of our ag community. And the look that I get from some of the farmers in the room when I'm encouraging them to talk at this level is, are you kidding me? and complete discomfort. This is uncomfortable conversations. I live in this mental health world, but I absolutely get that these are uncomfortable conversations to have. But what I challenge them with is, there is someone that you know, that you can think of in your mind right now, that some of those warning signs hit. And your discomfort in having this level of conversation with them is going to be nothing compared to the potential guilt that you would feel if they did do something that was harmful. And so while I know that this is a very touchy-feely conversation that I'm asking you to consider, the guilt that you would feel if you don't say something is overwhelming, because I've heard it from others. We ask them to trust their gut. If something doesn't feel right, take action. One of the pieces of guidance that I got from another farm bureau in another state was challenge coins. And this is something that the military does very well. They have coins created that have some level of meaning to them. And from military to military person, they'll hand out a challenge coin, and they understand what it means within that group. And so something that we're working on in our Farm Bureau initiative is developing challenge coins. And so it doesn't have to be a conversation like the bullet points that I listed before, but if there's something that strikes them, they're trusting their gut and that instinct and saying something feels off, they're going to take out a challenge coin and they're going to hand it to the farmer, and they're going to say, you know what, I want to give you this challenge coin. And if you accept this, this is a commitment that if you need me, you're going to call me. And on the back is the local suicide or the local crisis line number. And if you don't want to call me, that you're committing to calling this 988 number. We want to make sure that we let them know that at the end of this, they are not asked to be a counselor, not their job, not their comfort level. We're just asking them to be kind of a mechanic, the same way you would as if the tractor was broken down, for that farmer's engine. 988 is a nationwide number for any type of crisis. So the individual can call, or the family member could call, or the vet could call, or the salesman could call and just say, here's what I'm seeing. I'm a little concerned about it. What do you suggest that I do? So if you're not sure what to do, it doesn't have to be the person in crisis that could call. You as the loved one, you as the support could call and get some guidance as well. And as the Ohio Farm Bureau says, at the end of the day, we're stronger together. And that's the challenge that I leave the attendees with, is just to make sure that we are caring for our farm neighbors and our colleagues the same way we would if they called us and there was a piece of farm equipment that was struggling. That was a really quick run through. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, go ahead. You guys can unmute if you would like, or you can enter it in the chat anytime if you think of it later. But yeah, please go ahead. If you have any questions for Natalie, go ahead and unmute yourself. So Chad gave you a chat. Yeah. Okay. So will these slides be shared? Are able?
Absolutely.
Okay. So do you want them to email you specifically for the slides, or is it something that you can email me and we can send out a bulk link?
Carrie, I will email you. And you're welcome to share them. And the other thing that I would say is I was asked to present this at our Ohio Department of Health annual meeting this month. And I think it's worth exploring. And I don't know if any of you are further along than we are in Ohio, but I think there's an opportunity for a beautiful marriage between behavioral health, mental health, and physical health. And I know there's some discussion about some mobile physical health vans that are going to go to farms. And if there's a way to partner that with kind of a behavioral health side that's just doing a non-confrontational mental health check, I think that's a great opportunity for anyone who's further along than we are in that. Absolutely.
I think that's a phenomenal idea. I think everybody on here would agree with that.
That's it. That's all I have.
All right. So Marcy says the challenge coins are a fantastic idea. Nice metaphors to normalize caring for self and others. Oh, so, okay. So you and Michaela might need to get together. So they're working with Kentucky on that to bring it to North Carolina.
And I think Kentucky is the Farm Bureau that shared it with us as well. That was a great, it's not our idea. That's a great idea.
Wonderful.
I
Awesome.
did have a brief question.
Sure.
More so around the, I guess more the language used. I have taken mental health first aid and also am a mental health first aid instructor. And in the recognition and asking people how they're doing, they really stress from a perspective of saying, I've noticed that you've missed your last few vet appointments or something like that, instead of just saying like you seem to, or you've missed your last few appointments, just as like a tone and accusatory manner. And I was kind of wondering to have another perspective on that and see if there really is like sound evidence behind maybe the change of tone making a big difference, or if it's just kind of a personal preference and where you're comfortable to start that conversation.
I think that's a really good point. And I think that the I've noticed is taking the ownership back on the person. It identifies them as a caring person who's paying attention to what the farmer is going through. If that is something that mental health first aid is recommending, they're a very evidence-based program. I certainly am not going to recommend anything other, but I think that however you're getting it out, at the end of the day, letting them know that you're caring and talking about a change from their baseline or their typical behavior is going to be important.
Yeah, that was a great question. How you say things and ask things is going to sometimes dictate the response that you get. So Wayne wanted to know, where can they get the challenge coins?
Yeah, we are diving into that as well. Every challenge, every group that has a challenge coin creates their own. So ours will look different than Kentucky's will look, than the Marines will look. And that's kind of the cool thing about it, because we're from Ohio, and so ours may have the Ohio flag on it. But there are companies all over the United States that can create a challenge coin based on whatever it is that you want to highlight in your area.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And Wayne, I am also in North Carolina, working with the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network, also at the North Carolina Agri-Medicine Institute, where we do a lot of respirator fit testing and medical clearance for farmers and pesticide applications. And we are working to hopefully grow our program a little bit more. So if it's something you're interested in maybe learning about or in partnership with, we would be very happy to discuss it further, or even help you find a good location to make a coin of your own.
Awesome. Okay, in order to stay on time, if anybody else has any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat for Natalie. And then Natalie, if I will share your email address in a bulk email later, but if you want to put that in the chat, just in case they want to get a hold of you specifically, go ahead and do that. And then we're going to go ahead and move to our second presenter, which is Miss Sheryl Foland. She was going to present, I believe it was January, I think, Sheryl, and she had a little accident like right before the meeting with the ice storm. So Sheryl, we'll let you go ahead and start sharing your presentation if you have a PowerPoint.
Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, the winter has been kind of challenging here. We were having some technical difficulties yet this morning. We had a nice snowstorm come through and drop about 6 inches on us yesterday. And our neighbors to the north got 20 to 30 inches, depending on what side of town you were on. So I am going to attempt this. I will tell people I am technically challenged, but I will do the best I can. Okay, let's see. This is not my strong suit. I am a mental health provider by trade. So this is kind of a new thing for me. And I'm going to try and get rid of all of this other stuff.
If you go, I was gonna say, if you go to slideshow.
I was going to say, I know there's a way to do this.
Yeah. Go to slideshow at the top, and then you can,
there it is.
there you go. And then from beginning.
All right, here we go. Well, this is going to be really kind of short. We're in the process. So my name is Sheryl Foland, and I am the mental health advisor for a relatively new, we're still working on our nonprofit status, organization called No More Empty Saddles. And No More Empty Saddles, we provide, we're a suicide prevention group with the intent of preventing suicide through interactions specifically to the ag community. So, and we do this through alcohol and drug awareness, mental health awareness, physical chronic health awareness, because all of those tie together. And we were brought together about a year and a half ago from a young man, by a young man in this photo, John Beers. John, this was at Tom Horn Days in Bosler, Wyoming, in 2001, in August 2001. October 31st, we received a phone call that John had died. And John died at the time. We thought it was suicide. That was not the case. John died by an overdose of fentanyl. And he had been injured in several rodeo incidents and had become addicted to opioids, alcohol, and had some extreme mental health issues from that. Unfortunately, after we received this call, I received a call from Rand Seeley, who is the rodeo production owner of Tom Horn Days. And Rand was very distraught and had reached out to me. I didn't really know Rand other than on the side, when I'm not a mental health provider, I'm a rodeo photographer. So Rand and the secretary of the rodeo, Brenda Bowen, reached out to me and said, this has to stop. We had lost, just within our group, we had lost 4 people within a year to death by suicide within the rodeo industry. And so we came together, and Rand's vision was no more empty saddles. We're tired of seeing empty saddles. So from that came our Facebook page, which is a way to connect people who are having mental health challenges, who just want to reach out. We are a group, all volunteers. And the Facebook page is one of 2 things. Number one, providing uplift testimonies, reaching out with memes, with training opportunities, with thoughts and insight. The other way you can reach us is through private message, which comes to me. And then I do an assessment, and I either connect them with a trained volunteer who is in ag. So this is ag specific, from all over the United States. If I believe there's a problem, under my professional opinion, then I will reach out to providers within that person's area. And I will also make calls to law enforcement to do a welfare check or whatever we need to do to reach out to that person in distress. So the other, and we're still, like I said, we're relatively new. Last year, we also started a, oops, I think I'm screwing this up, and sorry about that. Again, not my strong suit, guys. There we go. So we started with our Facebook page. Now we have our homepage, which it looks like the link is not going to work. So this is our also another way to connect to us. We will be at various rodeos. We talk about the difficult subjects. People can always find me. They can find Marianne. We're still trying to get our volunteers trained. Right now we have 2 primary volunteers who have been through mental health first aid or either assist training or QPR. And those are peers then who also have had challenges within either mental health, substance abuse, but have longevity either in sobriety or in their personal care. So there's not really a lot about us. We're still in our infancy. Unfortunately, like this, oh, I have no idea what just happened.
Clinton went ahead and shared in the chat the link to your website so that people could go to it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, because right now my screen is frozen. So my apologies, guys. Of course, technology is great when it works, not so much when it doesn't. Let me see if I can switch out over here.
And I finally have enough bandwidth to put my camera on. I love that you brought up the whole opioid problem. A lot of people don't think about an opioid epidemic in the agriculture or rodeo world, but that's what is happening. And it's kind of by accident because farmers and ranchers and cowboys have real injuries and then accidentally their body becomes dependent on it. And I have personal experience with that. I haven't shared a whole lot about that, but same thing happened to me. I was sent home on Percocet and OxyContin, and I was switching them out every 2 hours. And 9 weeks later, I realized that my body became dependent on it. And, fortunately for me, opioids make me sick, terribly sick. So I quit and just went through all the withdrawal symptoms. But for some, they don't have a partner like I did who was able to pick up the slack while I recovered. These people, have to get out there and continue farming. And the only way they can get through it is pop another pill. And then all of a sudden there's a problem, a far worse problem than what they started off with. Oh, Sheryl, you're on mute. For some reason, it's still not working. Let me see if I can find you as well. And She may be having the same problem I had. Yep, she's not on anymore. Okay. So if you have any questions for Sheryl, go ahead and put them in the chat. So when she comes back on, she can go ahead and answer those and see what kind of events that she does host. Because I know that was one of my questions and somebody else had that question as well. So while Sheryl is getting back, we're going to go ahead and move to Mr. Adam. And I was able to meet Adam at the National Agri-Ability Conference just this past month. And he is the founder of Heroes to Hives. So I know that Missouri has a Heroes to Hives program. I did not realize that there was a national Heroes to Hives, but there is. So Mr. Adam is going to go ahead and present. Adam, you can go ahead and start sharing your PowerPoint if you have one, or just go ahead and unmute.
I'll go ahead and share my PowerPoint. You all should be able to see it right now. Thank you, Carrie, for the introduction, and I appreciate you all having me here today. My name's Adam Ingrao. I'm the co-founder and national director of the Heroes to Hives program. I'll take it today just through a little short kind of introduction to what our program is, and then focusing in a little bit on the wellness work that we do with service members. So we are the largest agriculture training program for military service members in the world, for U.S. military service members. We were established in 2015 as a beekeeping education program. And essentially why Heroes to Hives exists is from my own personal experience of transitioning from the military. I'm a service-connected disabled veteran. I served in the U.S. Army as a Patriot missile fire controller until 2004 when I suffered a career-ending injury. And like many of my fellow veterans, I was discharged from the military, sent to the VA for care. And at the time, we're talking about opioids here in this session. So I'll share my own personal story. I was one of those veterans that was prescribed a healthy dosage of Vicodin for nearly a year and a half. And that became a very serious problem that I was using Vicodin and alcohol to deal with the pain that I was dealing with on a daily basis from my own military service. And it wasn't until I was introduced into beekeeping and my first year going back to school as an undergraduate student at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo that I actually started to recover from those challenges. And the reason I was able to recover was because of the therapeutic aspects to beekeeping and the opportunity for me to continue serving my nation. As a veteran, as a service member, I was not done serving my country. Although I could not deploy to Afghanistan or Iraq at the time because of my injuries, I still wanted to serve my nation. And by protecting the most important managed pollinator on the planet and our food security that goes along with that, because 1 in every 3 bites of food is due to insect pollination, I felt like I can continue serving my nation through beekeeping. So the program, I'll talk a little bit about how it's structured, but right now we've had over 8,200 alumni in the program over the last 8 years. This year we have 2,600 students, a little over 2,600 students registered in the program overall. Right now, we estimate over 100,000 bee colonies are being managed by our students, and our program is entirely science-based. It is led by some of the major leading scientists working in honeybees, myself included. I am not a doctor of any kind of human medicine. I am an entomologist, so my specialty is in insects. And so most of my colleagues that work with honeybees, both at universities and nonprofit organizations, work with us on this program. And this program is truly run by veterans for veterans. I'm the lead instructor for the program. I oversee all national operations of the program, and it is truly focused on the success of our service members and their dependents. And we allow service members and up to 3 of their immediate dependents to participate in this program entirely for free. This is kind of just, and I won't go through all of these partners, but these are the partners who make this project possible. It is a huge effort to put this program on. It is a very big program. 9 months is what our students commit to through this program, and it's put on by a host of different organizations in several different states. So as Carrie mentioned, we are not just in Missouri. We were actually founded in Michigan and started rolling out to additional states about 4 years ago. And Missouri was one of the first states that we started to work with. But we are a global program. We have students that participate in our program from all 50 states, US territories, and active duty personnel in Europe and Asia as well. So I'll talk a little bit about how we view beekeeping and what the education looks like before we jump into kind of the therapeutic aspects of what we do. We view beekeeping as 4 different areas for service members. It could be a hobby, something as simple as just to get you out and doing something fun. It could be a new career. And this is something that speaks to a lot of veterans because, like myself, I served in a combat occupation in the military. I do not like working in offices. I want to be outside, and that speaks to a lot of our military service members as a career in beekeeping. We also look at beekeeping as community. One of the things that I realized when I left the military, and pretty much anybody who served in the military can tell you, is that when you leave your duty station and come back home, it's like falling off of a cliff. You lose your family, and many of those individuals that you serve with never come home. So the community aspect of where we work and what we do is very important, of reconnecting service members together over something constructive. This isn't going to a bar and hanging out and talking about war stories. This is learning to become a beekeeper, committing ourselves to our food security and becoming the next generation of American beekeeper. We also look at beekeeping as therapy, and this is one of the major aspects of our course. The course was co-founded by my Lacey Ingrao, who is a transpersonal psychologist that focuses and specializes in nature-based therapies. And we'll talk a little bit about how that's been integrated into the program here in just a bit. The program's broken into 2 areas. We have an online program, which is and we have an on-ground offering as well, which is in select states where, like Missouri, who participates with us. And so I'll talk a little bit about what this looks like. So as far as the online program is very robust. It starts in March of every year and goes through November. And every month, our students get an educational module that has lectures, instructional videos, support materials as well. The lectures are topic specific. They're broad in context, biology, management, the fundamentals of beekeeping. Our instructional videos are task specific in the apiary. So me showing people how to do an inspection on a beehive, how to light a smoker, how to apply miticides, things like that. But what we're really known for, in addition to all of this academic kind of foundational knowledge in beekeeping, is the support resources. Like I said, we're a program for veterans by veterans, so it's not just learning about beekeeping. And every module we offer, there are support resources, things like how do I start a business, things like how do I market my business, things like connecting with organizations like the VFW to help you access your service benefits, or things like our therapeutic practices. And in every single module that our students receive, there is a therapeutic practice that is done in that module. Things like active meditation while working a beehive, breath work in an apiary, things like that. And I'll talk about the full breadth of our curriculum in the therapeutic space here in just a moment. We also offer a certificate of completion, which is recognized by the USDA as 1 year of service in agriculture. As many of you know, working in the ag space, to get a loan from FSA, you have education and work experience requirements. Our program counts as a year of that experience for any US. We also have an agreement with the University of Nebraska's Great Plains Master Beekeeping course, which is one of many master beekeeping courses around the country. People don't go to college generally to become beekeepers like myself. Most of them go through master beekeeping programs, which are 4 to 5 akin to kind of a bachelor's degree in beekeeping. And we have an agreement with the Great Plains Master Beekeeping course. Individuals that complete our course can transfer all of our course credits over to their course to complete their Master Beekeeping certificate. In addition to our on-ground programming, my slides to forward here. In addition to our on-ground programming or online programming, we also offer on-ground programming in select states. Now, we are a nationwide or global program, but we are very selective about how we roll out these on-ground instructional sites. They have to be run by a master beekeeper. There has to be a veteran presence there. And generally, we only work with universities and nonprofit organizations that specialize in beekeeping. And what these workshops look like is during the beekeeping season, we bring veterans together over beehives at free workshops where they can learn the hands-on instruction and kind of get their hands into beehives. What we noticed over the we allow veterans to open up in our sessions, and the sessions that we have, those discussions can oftentimes be very difficult discussions about things that happen in combat that just veterans don't feel comfortable talking with civilians about. And so we allow individuals to open up and be very candid about their experiences in the military. We see that as basically therapy in action right in the bee yard. The select states that we have on-ground workshops on, we're constantly adding new states, but again, we're very methodical about how we do this. But right now we offer programming in Michigan, Missouri, Minnesota, Nebraska, Indiana, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. We also have a very strong relationship with AgriBility, where I saw Carrie at the National Training Workshop just a couple weeks ago. We've been working with AgriBility since 2015, and our work with AgriBility started with me as a client. I've been a client of AgriBility's for the last 10 years. In addition to my injuries from the military, I also have severe injuries from a car accident, included a traumatic brain injury. So I've been working with Ned to help deal with my own disabilities over these years, but we have developed a very close relationship with AgriBility and have been the leading organization in the nation, leading a lot of the development of accessible technologies and recommendations for beekeepers. And AgriBility has both workshops, presentations, and online presence as far as an online workshop in our online program as well. But that relationship is very strong with AgriBility, an amazing organization. Well, let's get into kind of the therapy of what we do and kind of the work that we're doing in that space. One of the things that we've been doing for the last 3 years is we've been partnered with the VA to basically establish beekeeping as an evidence-based therapy. For those of you that work in this space, the VA does not do anything that is not evidence-based. And so in order to be able to really support individuals in doing these types of alternative therapies, we've got to have evidence that they actually work. And so we have been doing a program for the last 3 years with the Manchester VA in New Hampshire and their recreational therapy department to look at exactly this. And we've had a beekeeping program running there. Valerie Carter is the rec therapist who runs that program at the VA. And essentially what we've seen over the last 3 years, and we're getting ready to publish data in the next couple of years on this, but essentially what we've seen is reductions in loneliness, suicide. We've seen reductions in anxiety as well through these sessions. And basically we've been surveying individuals before they do the beekeeping session and afterwards to see what their outcomes are. This is also being built into a larger project. We actually are putting in a grant application today for a SARE grant through USDA to basically take a lot of our therapeutic curriculum that we've developed in the transpersonal space and meld it with a more clinical application of psychotherapy. So actually using a lot of the standard metrics in psychotherapy to determine wellness outcomes. What we have as far as the offerings in our course for therapeutic beekeeping, this is what we currently offer in the Heroes to Hives course, which was developed by Lacey and Ingrao. Breath work and movement. So we do a lot of breath work within the bee yard. And the interesting thing about bees is a lot of the smells associated with colonies can actually be diagnostic tools for certain types of bacterial diseases. So when we do these types of wellness practices, we always integrate knowledge within beekeeping with it. So we look at breath work. We also do yoga for beekeepers to enable them to kind of get their bodies ready to work in the bee yard. Working bees is a very physical activity. We do one of the practices we do are creating and crossing a threshold. So actually creating a threshold in your bee yard that you cross each time you go in as a physical reminder of being present and becoming mindful. When we work with our bees, the thing that we talk about in our course constantly is this idea of mindfulness. And when you are not being mindful with your bees, they're going to let you know, and they're going to light you up with stings. And that really resonates with veterans. As an army soldier, I am very familiar with being disciplined through physical activity. And that bee sting is the same type of thing. And it really resonates with veterans. So what we tell veterans is as they're working with bees, you need to be present. You don't need to be thinking about what happened in combat. You don't need to be thinking about your battle buddies that never came home. You are focused on your bees, and you're focused on your bees only. And so it is a constant practice of being present and being mindful. And when you lose that mindfulness, the bees bring you back immediately with that sting. We commune with bees, so actually physically talking to your bees about the struggles that you have. This is a practice that was developed by the Celtic cultures many years ago, and is actually something where in the Celt cultures, when something significant happened in the life of a beekeeper in the Celtic cultures, they would tell this to their bees, and this is a form of just personal therapy. Apitherapy is a thing we focus on, so actually using bee stings to deal with physical ailments like rheumatoid arthritis. Bee bathing, so actually being with your bees, similar to forest bathing, which is a practice that's very common in Asia. We also do the active meditation that I recommend, so a whole practice on actually working through a beehive and participating in that work through meditation. We do steps of gratitude, which is exactly what it sounds like, walking with your bees and providing gratitude to them. And then sensory exploration as far as the products and the textures and feels and smells that we have within a bee yard. These are practices that we currently do, but like I said, we are working to actually add more practices to this in coming years through grant activity that we're going to be doing, hopefully if that grant gets funded, but we'll also be looking at a lot of the clinical outcomes that we have not been looking at in here. Like I said, I am an entomologist. I am not a mental health or health professional, but we are working with a clinical psychologist, a horticultural therapist, a recreational therapist, and a transpersonal psychologist, all on this program to provide these practices to our students. To just kind of highlight what we see, and this is anecdotal evidence, but like I said, we're working towards that evidence-based therapy. The anecdotal evidence that we've been getting from the program through our surveys, we do a lot of surveying of our participants, both when they come into the program and when they exit the program, for knowledge outcomes and just general kind of what happened in the program. And this is what we get in our open answered question that we ask a lot, is that our service members see this as connecting them with nature. For those of you that have never served in the military, we are often tasked with life and death decisions that are split second. Slowing that thought process down when you get out of the military is very difficult to do. And for those of you that know service members or veterans that have been in combat for any period of time, oftentimes there's agitation when things don't happen immediately. And that's what this is kind of doing, is it's allowing them to slow down to the natural cycles of life. One of the most pleasurable things I have when I work with my students is that when they get really excitable about the course starting and wanting to get into bees, I constantly have to remind them this is practice in patience. This whole course is going to be a practice in patience. It allows us to nurture instead of destroy. For many folks that serve in the military, our task is destroying things. My job was shooting non-friendly aircraft out of the sky. And that is destruction. Or individuals that serve as infantry, busting doors down in communities and finding insurgents. This is hard to come back from. And so what this process of coming back to animals, and any of you who work in animal agriculture can recognize this, is that idea of nurturing instead of destroying. You are nurturing your animals, you're taking care of them, and it shifts that mindset. It brings us back together. Something as simple as bringing veterans back together over something constructive. It offers us stability and support. One of the things that you feel after you get out of the military is this sense of just like, well, the world's your oyster. Well, I've been told what to do for the last 20 years I was in the military. Telling me I can do anything is very intimidating. And so by having something that they have to be accountable to, just like we were accountable to our unit, now you're accountable to your bees. You got to check on them. They're not going to take you. You have to take care of them. You're nurturing them. That stability offers a lot to our individuals. In addition, it also can offer some supplemental income. And a lot of our veterans who participate in the program, over 50% of the individuals in our program are service-connected disabled veterans, and many of them are 100% service-connected non-employable, which means that they can't actually have a job without losing their VA benefits. This allows them to supplement their income with some cash income from bee sales and from honey sales. And then lastly, it engages our families. That is one of the biggest things that comes from this program is this idea of bringing families back together. Individuals that deploy, that serve 18 months or 3 or 4 tours overseas, their family serves with them. And there is a lot of strain that happens between family members over that time. not just between spouses, but between children as well. We think about the things that happen to kids as people are deployed. Those children are growing and those relationships are building. And when someone's not there, that is a strain. And one of the things that we see from our program, because we allow dependents to participate, is the familial bond begins to be repaired over honeybees. And I have a Marine Corps veteran that I've worked with for many years, and his daughters participated in our course many years ago. And when I go to visit their farm, it's his daughters that are more excited about the bees than he is, but it's brought them back together. All right, so I'll wrap it up with that and take any questions. You're welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions about the program or interested to see what we can do to work with you all. But I appreciate the time today, and thank you for all the work that you all are doing. Very important work for our farming communities.
Yeah, wonderful presentation, Adam. I feel like we've had 3 very passionate presenters this morning, and I feel like I have had just so much absorption with your presentation. I had no idea all of that stuff about bees. One thing really, really sits with me that you said a couple times that I love is that you are bringing these vets together to do something constructive when all of their commonality before was about destruction. I mean, I just feel like that's the foundation of your whole project.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that whole kind of shift of roles is a really important. Coming back from the military is not easy. And I mean, all of you who work especially in mental health, and if you're working with veterans, you realize the struggles that we as service members come back with, and that idea that we can just shift our mindset like that. You come home one day and you're a civilian and all of a sudden everything's okay. And that's just not the case. And so having an ability to bring us together and kind of heal together in these constructive manners. And like I said, it's not just beekeeping. Like I would say, it transfers over to almost all areas of agriculture, that there's this opportunity to have constructive, productive, commitment to something greater to themselves. And that's the thing that really sticks out for me and from my service was when I left the military, I wasn't done serving my nation. I wanted to continue serving something larger than myself. And that's what we're providing these individuals an opportunity to do.
Yes, absolutely. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute. And we definitely want to put your email and website in the chat, and we'll send that out as well. But I know people get really excited at the time, so we'll do that. And feel free, like if you guys have, Sheryl is back on as well. So if anybody has any questions for Sheryl as well, go ahead and unmute. Lots of comments in the chat about this project, Adam. Sheryl, if you can, would you go ahead and we didn't get a chance to have you share a little bit about the events that you start. Can you go ahead and give us just an example maybe of a few of those?
Sure. Thanks, Carrie, and thanks everybody for being patient and tolerant with my electronic challenges today. So one of the things that No More Empty Saddles does is at every the rodeos that we've been invited to, mostly the ones that are produced by Rand Seeley, we will have a booth. We have a table at my RV. And so we have informational cards about 988 suicide prevention numbers. We also have our volunteers available to talk. I am always present, so I can always be tracked down. But we're primarily at rodeos. And as we grow, obviously Tom Horn Days is one of our biggest events. But when we are at a rodeo, we also provide gun locks, medication lock boxes, and gun boxes at no cost. So there's no questions asked. You can just come by, pick up whatever you need. If you just want to have a cup of coffee, I was at Tom Horn Days last year, and a young man came by and said, "Are you the suicide lady?" I had not been referred that way, and I was like, "Well, if you're wanting to do suicide, the answer is no. If you want to talk about it, the answer is yes." So I invited him in. We had a cup of hot chocolate. He sat down for a half hour. He just wanted somebody to listen. It just so happened he was a veteran, had just been back, probably not even a year, was struggling as to how he fell in the community, what his life was going to be like, had ups and downs. I was able to get him connected with a therapist in his area. And he messaged me last month, and he and his girlfriend, fiance, are about to have a baby. He's employed, loving life, and doing well. So sometimes all we need to do is just provide an ear to someone with no judgment. And that's what we do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes just a listening ear. Does anybody else have any questions? Dr. Adam had to leave, but anybody else, feel free to go ahead and unmute or put it in the chat. Lots of good stuff in there. So we will go ahead and send out the YouTube link to everyone in a bulk email with the meeting recording. And then also we'll go ahead and send out the emails and the links to the projects that all three of our presenters. It usually takes Quace a couple days to go ahead and get that out. But I know that there's going to be lots of people wanting to connect with each of our presenters today. So we look forward to the future collaborations. So, all right, it is right at the top of that hour. I don't want to take any more of your time, but thank you to Natalie and Sheryl, who are still here, for giving us so much information today. And thank you, everyone. We had a great meeting attendance today. So thank you so much, and happy Wednesday to everyone.